Hey everyone, thanks for coming back after a less than stellar episode last week, technically speaking. But don't worry, we should have everything under control today. We still couldn't wrangle Ben to meet up, but hopefully we can find some time to do a separate podcast with him. Antoine?
Yeah, so if you didn't listen to our last week episode, first you should go and go back to listen to it. And Phil has chosen today's topic, which is a game that brings something in from outside. So, Phil, why don't you explain to us what you meant by that?
Yeah, I probably didn't do a fantastic job last week of explaining. I probably kept it deliberately open. But yeah, we live in a world of integration with culture crossing between media, films, TV, music, celebrities, and gaming sort of working in this cohesive network that seems to be expanding and growing closer together. So I remember playing Command and Conquer being one of the first games where I started to notice celebrities in cutscene videos. Tim Curry and all the likes of a stellar cast of people that I wouldn't expect to have seen in a computer game. So that absorption of external influences into the gaming world has been going for quite a while. But Adam, you're up first, so please introduce your game and explain what it's brought into the game from outside of the sphere of gaming.
All right. Well, what I feel like the game was bringing into, I'm going to go into that first, like what I was going through. And what I thought to bring into the games was religion. So, for
My
those of you,
ears.
for those of you who don't know why everyone's laughing, it's because I did a little visual effect there. So go watch the podcast and you'll see what I did. Um, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. I realized I could do that and had to had to do it. Um, so anyway, I picked El Shaddai: Ascension of the Metatron, and it was a game for the Xbox 360 and the PS3. And if you haven't heard of it, that's okay because probably a lot of people haven't heard of it. It was kind of an indie game, but it was made by some big name people. It was developed by Ignition Tokyo and published by UTV Ignition Games. However, the director was Sawaki Takeyasu, who is apparently the artist and a character creator for Devil May Cry, Okami, and Fatal Frame. So it did have some big names behind it, but it was kind of more of an indie title. Uh, but anyway, it was released in 2011. It's kind of a hack and slash game. You play as Enoch, who is the, I don't know if you'd call him the main character or the protagonist, but he's the focus of the Book of the Enoch from the Apocrypha. If you're familiar with the Apocrypha, which is uh, texts that are in certain Christian groups and also Judaism. And Enoch can equip three different kinds of weapons: arc, gale, and heavy. Arc, gale, and veil. Arc being a light weapon, gale being a ranged weapon, veil being a heavy weapon, which break over time. So you have to steal them from enemies. So it's a hack and slash where your gear is constantly breaking. So you're having to either steal it or purify it. Enoch equips holy armor. You have no health bar. You've just got this holy armor that kind of floats around your body that breaks off as you go. And if you lose all your armor and you get hit, then you basically just do some button mashing and you can get your armor back. I have no idea how much this game costs nowadays because it is an old game and pretty much you have to have an Xbox 360 or a PS3 to play it. Although with Xbox backwards compatibility, you could probably still play it. However, finding a copy, I have no idea how much it's going to cost. Um, as far as my personal take on it, it's very flashy, but it is kind of basic by modern standards. It is basically just a hack and slash, and you've got three weapon types, and you're just going through it. It's kind of like if you've seen old Devil May Cry or the old Dante's Inferno and those sort of things, where maybe you have some combos, but there's even less combos here. So it's flashy. It looks good. Music's kind of, but other than that, but basically, I thought it was interesting because a lot of times we see, games spilling out into other media. We see games becoming movies like, Mortal Kombat or Monster Hunter. We see lots of games that become comics later on. I think Infamous has some comics, and now Mass Effect, I'm pretty sure, has comics as well, or books, or TV shows like The Witcher. So we often see games kind of broaden out, but we don't often see things that are specific being brought into games. Like we have fantasy concepts like elves and stuff like that, but a lot of times in games, people like to establish their own lore for the game, and part of the game is exploring that lore. So the fact that this game actually took something from a religious text and turned it into a game that wasn't some sort of, pardon my speech, but Bible thumping, like propaganda basically. But it wasn't just this kind of like beat it over your head, like, oh, like it was kind of interesting that they took this part from Western religion even and converted it into a game, which I thought was interesting because in Japan that's actually kind of common. We see a lot of references to Abrahamic religions in Japanese works. I mean, if you've ever watched was it Neon Genesis Evangelion, there's tons of references to angels and the Sephiroth and Adam and Eve and Lilith and Nephilim and all these things. But in the West, we don't really like to put those things in our games, and I don't know if it's partially because it's just so familiar that it seems boring, or if it's one of those things where because it's so familiar people are kind of worried like maybe it's better to stick to something that isn't probably going to offend certain groups. But I thought that it was really interesting that they did this and brought it in, which if you're familiar with the Book of Enoch, is really wild. It's kind of a Book of Revelations, kind of crazy. There's just people ascending and monsters showing up, and Enoch is trying to prevent a second flood, and he's got angels like chilling with him as a posse, and they go and fight evil, and it's crazy. So the fact that somebody went through and they saw this and they were like, oh, that would make a great game. I thought that was kind of interesting that they could establish this kind of real world lore and put it in a game. We don't usually see that. I mean, for instance, creepypastas, right? We have like the Pokemon Lavender Town music causing people to commit suicide, or the Sonic.exe creepypasta, or the urban legend about the ET game being buried somewhere in the desert, which turned out to be true. So games often become parts of urban legends, but we don't often see urban legends or traditional lore being integrated into games. And so I thought that the fact that somebody took, an actual book from not the King James Bible, but kind of, the extended, what was it, the Bible's EU, as it were, and applied it to a game. I thought that was kind of really interesting and something that we don't see a lot. So that was my take on it.
Just one precision, you say that there's not a lot of games based on religions, like Western religions.
Mm.
We do a lot, except we use dead religions, so that the only people we're gonna, insult are historians, like everything about Vikings and
Okay.
Egyptians and Greeks and stuff. It's okay, they're all gone, so no one's gonna mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we use a lot of the dead religion stuff, and we see like we see references to religion things. Like for instance, if you've ever played, was it Shin Megami Tensei? The final boss is literally the Abrahamic God, so you kill God.
Fair
Um,
enough.
yeah, I
That's
think.
ballsy.
Yeah. I think in what was it? In one of the Mother games, I think it was a similar thing. So in Japanese games, this is fairly common, and we see a lot of things like in games with Japanese religion and stuff like that. Like Okami is just all full of Shintoism and whatnot. But yeah, just to see something that's kind of like a modern telling of one of these books, I just thought it was really really interesting. So
Out of curiosity, do you prefer like a game to have those links to religion, like things like God of War or Assassin's Creed, when they have those elements of the dead religions? Well, Assassin's Creed also has the
there's some
kind of
Christianity in
link,
there. Yeah.
But do you prefer that to like systems like Final Fantasy, where they've got an entirely made up system, or does it make
Well,
more
in Final
sense?
Fantasy too, like Bahamut, Shiva, Gilgamesh, Hades, a lot of their summons are taken from real religions.
Yeah.
Some dead, some alive. Quetzalcoatl, but if it's something like, say, Final Fantasy or Assassin's Creed, I don't mind it that much. But I didn't really like God of War, and part of the reason I didn't like God of War was because the whole thing where like they add Kratos in and he's killing Ares instead of and that, and I'm like, we have all these rich Greek mythology and all that, and then somebody inserted their own character, they're destroying the Greek gods, and in my way it felt almost kind of like narcissistic and arrogant, like I'm going to create a character that's better than Zeus, you know what I mean? And it's like, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't mind it so much in something like Assassin's Creed, where they reference it, or they reference these gods, and then they kind of say like, oh well, Anubis was this ancient Isu character who the Egyptians, didn't really understand what was going on, and so they interpreted it as this. So the Egyptian religion is an interpretation of this other thing. I don't mind that as much, but yeah, God of War just kind of rubbed me the wrong way with the whole like, it just felt like, oh, we can do Homer one better, and I was like, oh. So I wasn't a big fan of that, but
Adam, for clarification for our podcast listeners, because you've explained this to me, but what is a creepy pasta?
oh, a creepypasta. A creepypasta is basically a modern urban legend in a way. Um, so what happens is somebody will create a story and they'll post the story online, and if people like it, they'll copy it and then they'll paste it. So that so if you copy and paste the story, you know how the internet works, where people just spell things wrong. Copy paste became copy pasta, and then creepypasta is a play on words, where it's this copied and pasted story. That is a scary story. And so basically it's kind of the modern medium of the urban legend. Slender Man is probably one of the most famous examples. And yeah, I always thought that was interesting because living in Asia, you have a lot of urban legends, and you always hear about Japanese urban legends, and it's like, oh yeah, we don't have too many urban legends in the West anymore. But then I was thinking about it, and I was like, no, we do. They're creepy pastas. I mean, you had those little girls that killed their friend over Slender Man. So it's kind of the modern version of an urban legend in a way.
Okay. Any last questions, guys? Adam, last thoughts before we move on?
No, that was basically it. Just
Okay.
strange game. Watch a video of it. You don't need to play it. Watch a video of it and skip through it, and you'll kind of see that it's out there.
All right, then it's Antoine up with his game Surviving Mars.
Absolutely. So if you didn't hear Cry in the last podcast, that's my fault. I keep chatting too much. So sorry about that, mate. I'll try to keep it shorter this week. And if I keep on chatting, just stop me. All right.
Go
So yes,
crazy, it's okay.
ah, not too much. So yeah, this for this podcast, I chose Surviving Mars, which was developed by Emimon Games and published by a small studio called Paradox Interactive. So you might not know them, but they did some small stuff like Stellaris, City Skyline, Europa Universalis, Crusader Kings. Well, no, everybody knows them. They are very big stuff. This game was released in March 2018. You can have the base game on Steam at about $33 Canadian. There's tons of DLC on this one, so the full package would be more like in around the 50 mark, 55. That's as a genre, it's combining several themes. So like City Builder, they know how to do it. City Skylines was fantastic. So City Builders, they know how to do it. Survival a bit with Stellaris, they still know how to do it so good. New thing for Paradox is doing colony sim, and I think they did great on this one. As a whole, it's this game has a very positive view from the gamers, so I can only recommend you to play it. It's really cool. So I want to how I interpret the topic of field this week, that I want to compare it to SpaceX. I'm sure you know it, but just to remind you a bit, you have billionaire Elon Musk, again, that everybody knows. You know him as the owner of Tesla, mainly, and also as the owner of SpaceX. SpaceX is about 20 years old space company, of course, and his goal has always been to colonize Mars. And it will take place in with their Starship program. So it's not a sci-fi project, it's not just a dream. There's lots of money, being thrown at the Starship, and you can see it explode pretty often these days. I wanted to say this year, but it's not exploding so much these days, so that's much better. And they are based, in Boca Chica in Texas. And it earned very recently, actually, its first real victory, just to show you this project is actually real, by being selected by NASA as a moon lander in their Artemis program to bring back astronauts to the moon. So, as per Elon Musk, that's the first step: first the moon, then Mars. So the parallel I want to do with this game now is that at the very beginning of Surviving Mars, it starts very similarly to what SpaceX has in mind, or NASA in general. to colonize Mars, it would start by sending unmanned cargo. So imagine a big SpaceX with only cargo in it, tons and tons of it, to settle the place with robots and rovers, which gonna build installations. And once everything, all the setup on site is deemed worthy, then you can start sending your colonists and build up your dome city, all the way to having a green Mars. So yeah, what I really love in this game is that you can find technologies needed by humans to survive are actually being developed in real life. The best example I can give you is Moxie. So Moxie, if you don't know about it, it has been really talked about lately. It's an oxygen generator. It takes CO2, which is about 96% of Mars atmosphere. You remove the C part, so the carbon, and you make it into O2, so oxygen. And uh, in the game, you'll build them by the dozen to support your colony in game. Each dome needs a lot of Moxie to make sure that your colonies can breathe. And in real life, so that the parallel I wanted to give you, that in real life, very likely you heard that NASA has sent the Perseverance rover on Mars very recently. I think it was February or March, something like this. And on Perseverance, it contained a MOXIE experiment on board. So whatever you find in the game, it exists in real life. So in real life, it was the size of a car battery. It was small. It was just a demonstrator at this stage. They are not trying to uh, like make some guy over there breathe. It's just to demonstrate the technology work. So the first test went well, and Moxie can generate about an hour worth of oxygen with this small car battery running for quite a while. So thanks to that, now we know that we can use this concept, make it 100 times bigger, say, and ta-da! You have oxygen on Mars with on-site resource. You don't need Earth to actually bring oxygens from Earth to get your guys to breathe. And if you include, some 3D printers to create pieces to, like for maintenance and repairs, you're good. You're gold. So maybe like SpaceX engineers, they can actually play this game to see what not to do. Like for for in my case, for instance, I hope it doesn't really happen in real life. It's just to give a bit more difficulty in the game. But I like to be very square, literally, like very tidy. And in the game, I made a big park, with all of my Mugsy, piled up, like a big square just of Mugsies, all bundled up together, very clean and nice. And then you have a meteorite which smashed right into them. And then you can see your colonist, which will happily see the remaining oxygen in the domino fall, with the time. You have like 1 hour left of oxygen, and your guys start to stress. So, of course, I'll probably be long gone before we actually see an actual colony on Mars. So, with this game, I can have a little taste of not. Of course, it's not really realistic. It's realistic at the beginning of the game. After, it's more sci-fi because we don't really know what's gonna happen. But in a perfect world, and if you don't restart the game 30 times like I did, that's give me a taste of what's gonna happen in 200-300 years. So I skipped the game really fast, to make the parallel with SpaceX. But it's a really fun, complete game. And one of the tough part of the game is to keep your colonists' sanity up, and that's gonna be a big challenge as well for colonists in real life in the future. Is you really need it's a long trip, and they are not gonna go back anytime soon, likely. So it's you really need to find a way to keep them sane. Otherwise, they either go on the next shuttle or they just plain suicide. So it's really survival in the way that you need to make sure that your colony survive and thrive. Really fun game. You really have to play. Actually, I think I'm gonna play it again soon. I really like this game. There's a few DLC I didn't get, so always something new. That's it for me.
All right, gentlemen, questions?
Bill, you want to go first?
I was trying to think of. You reminded me a little bit towards the end of an RPG that I used to play. I was trying to remember what the name is. It called Insanity, maybe, and it was tracking the the sanity measure of it was actually the characters that are playing the RPG. And every action and everything that you did sort of like had consequences and effects on the group and the party, and as you're doing your specific missions. So
Darkest Dungeon?
that's no, I'm sure it's called. It was just a. I'm sure it's just called Insanity. It was a table a board. What's the word? What's the word I'm thinking of? Like not. It was not computers. It was just all by books.
Oh, okay.
Classic
Okay.
vintage
Tabletop.
role-play games. Yeah, just the big book that you open up with all pictures of horrific things, and
Sounds
yeah,
like Call of Cthulhu.
yeah, and Call of Cthulhu to some way as well, especially the board games and the computer games from that as well. I was trying to think of other games where you see that insanity measure, and the part of the requirements of playing the game is to make sure everybody stays sane.
Huh.
I think Amnesia has that, right? Or is it Amnesia? Or I think Amnesia has it, or Into the Dark or something like that. I don't know what it's
Yeah.
called.
Yeah, was there a question? I'm not sure because I got distracted from that because originally I was thinking of Outriders as well with the 3D printers and the whole idea that Earth is going to be destroyed. We have to build these big spaces. We see it every time with so many movies and everything that everybody comes together and they build these giant spaceships, and all of a sudden 20 years later and we're
That,
exploring
that's
space.
actually one of the very very fun points of surviving Mars is that not everybody come together, and that's actually how you increase the difficulty of the game. You have to choose at the beginning of the game who's gonna fund your expedition. Are you going with European Union? Are you going with USA? Are you going with China Russian alliance? Or are you going with a private company which is gonna give you much less resources? So that's how you actually increase the difficulty of the game. I found that a very cool concept.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
way to
of
spin
course,
it
the
back
private
in.
company is gonna have less money than like USA or stuff like this. But very good.
Do you know if anybody, while making the game, was actually consulting with, say, SpaceX or NASA or anything like that? Or
I actually have no idea. But the game is 2018. SpaceX has been here since 2001. Definitely, it has an influence. I mean, just the Moxie, they didn't pick up the stuff just out of nowhere. It must come from somewhere. But I
okay,
don't know if they had an actual consultant in there.
All right. What is the win condition for Surviving Mars? Because I've had this, I just never got down to playing it.
What condition, sorry?
The win condition, like how do you finish the game?
Um, in a very very long future, you, you have to accomplish some objectives such as melting the polar ice cap, to give some water and some moisture and recreate an atmosphere, if you will, on Mars to make it green, to make it Earth-like. And
Ah, okay.
you kind of win the game when you not destroy, but the domes of your city go down, and you can have your colonies go out and breathe, and you have trees and lakes and stuff like this. And it's really tough because at the beginning, when you put an atmosphere to have some water come down, it sometimes comes down as acidic rain, which
Oh
gonna
no.
kill all of your trees. Oh, are you happy to have trees here? Acids. But the more you complete your objectives, uh, I can't remember all of them, but I mainly remember the melting the ice cap to get some water and stuff like this, or like removing the CO2 from the oxygen, replacing it more and more with oxygen. Yeah, no, it was really really cool.
Do you remember how long it took you to get there? Is this like a 30-hour game or a 60-hour game or?
It's a die and retry game, so you're gonna spend 5 hours doing. "Ah, I should have done that. Let's retry. It's how I play. I play 1 or 2 hours. I don't like the setup. Restart. And I think if you have a good setup, you know how to play the game. 25, 30 hours, yeah. But again, you can play indefinitely as much as you want, and increase the difficulty. And it has a very good replayability on it, at least to my taste, because I really want to replay it again. There's some game, you're happy to finish and you put it, away, and that's it. This one, every 2 or 3 years, I'm just redo a game just because it's so fun.
Oh, I forgot to ask Adam this. But Antoine, so of course SpaceX is bringing in the reality of moving to Mars. I mean, what's a concept you would like to be pulled into a game?
Sci-fi like this is really much my stuff, you know. So just this concept of going to Mars and set up a colony, that's pretty good enough for me at the moment. So
Okay. What about you, Adam? I should have asked you this before. I'd written some questions for you guys at the end of each video, so
that's trick questions.
Concept that I would like pulled into a
It's a
game.
trap.
Ah, I don't even know. I mean, there's so many different games.
well, I mean, like Al Shaddai and like Surviving Mars pulls in. Like, what's something that maybe hasn't been pulled in that you would like to say? Okay, I wish they'd have a game that encapsulates this concept.
Hmm. I might have to get back to you on that because I don't have an idea off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
that's a tough one, really.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll come back at the end of Phil's video to answer that. I thought that would be an easy question. I should
Oh no.
think of these
That's a
before I.
hard one.
It's okay. No, just make it an open question for everyone to answer in the comments, you know. Let's give a preference. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so just what Antoine said. If you have an idea of what you'd like to be pulled into a game, please hit us up at the usual social channels. All right, Phil, then we're gonna move on to you.
Yeah, okay, no worries. I'm gonna just explain the game first, and then I'll go on to why I chose it. But yeah, I looked at Star Trek Bridge Crew, even developed by Red Storm Entertainment, published by Ubisoft. Release date was May the 30th, 2017, on Windows and PS4, depending on the whether you're using the PSVR. And the Oculus Quest, December the 16th, 2019, a little bit later. Action adventure, and it did okay. Nothing fantastic with a lot of the critics and the main critiques. Steam 7 out of 10, Metacritic 75%, 4 out of 5 on Game Radar. So I mean, they're not
It's not
terrible
bad.
ratings. Yeah, reasonably all right. Now it costs $25 on Steam in the PS Store. And why I chose this, I'm just going to intro quickly, is because uh, the Star Trek universe has so many of these science fiction ideas of warp speed and shields, and teleportation. But the holodeck was always something that people thought maybe is the closest of all of the others that we could actually achieve. And you then play Star Trek Bridge Crew, and you're playing a game, the sci-fi game, and then creating an almost holodeckish experience of putting on the headset and being inside this world. So I kind of felt it was a bit of a switch of what the original was into the modern genres of gaming. And VR's always been contentious with gamers and the gulf of expectation and reality. And if you ask a lot of hardcore gamers, they can generally be quite dismissive of VR capabilities. And you can look at games like Astrobot, Rush of Blood, two games that I really love on the VR system. They're quite simplistic. Astrobot very much to do with what the controller can do more, I guess, especially on the PS5. And Rush of Blood, very simplistic. You're on a roller coaster. You've got your guns. You're just shooting onto either side, and you can look right and left. You're static almost. So Bridge Crew, how much does it evolve the expectation between reality and what you're getting in the game? Well, I'm not too impressed with it, I have to say, even though the critics' scores gave it, pretty decent gameplay. If you're playing the game with 4 people, then it's pretty good in that the multiplayer, you can all be playing on the deck and you can look around to each other and cooperate with what you're doing. But I mean, the graphics inside are okay, but the movement and the ridiculous postures. I don't know if you guys have ever YouTubed any sort of videos for Star Trek Bridge Crew, but they always involve people trying to, do this with a controller or, do silly things with their hands where they're going like this, because that's about all you can do. It's twist your arms in a weird dance maneuver that looks like you've broken your wrists 7 times as you're spinning around, and trying to do dirty, perverted, innuendo type movements, and that's about it. And that kind of breaks you from the VR system when you're looking over to the captain of the ship and he's asking you to put the shields up whilst doing this weird twisty maneuver with his hands. You're like, oh my god, what is going on? So yeah, there are problems there, and developers continue to pump huge amounts of money into these AR VR systems, and they're trying their best. But I always think, is VR going to achieve this perfection? Is it going to achieve what I see in films like Tron or Ready Player One with this full integration and absorption, or even the new series Upload, where you have an integration between mind and visual, sound, everything's just there in one. Through, obviously they all have their own different ways of systems of how it works, but I don't know. Every time I play these games, I'm a little bit, what's the word? You know,
Underwhelmed.
yeah, underwhelmed, I guess. Sort of like, are we ever going to achieve that? Are we actually taking steps forward? And what was interesting was that I know 2018, Roddenberry Entertainment linked up with, I'm trying to remember the name. Here we go. Light Field Labs, and they pumped huge amounts of money into holographic displays and a real holographic experience. But I don't. I checked and tried to do some reading on it, and there seems to be just more money pumped into it. But I haven't really seen a whole load of how we've achieved it. So I don't know what. And even then, holodeck and the VR from a whole load of different TV series and films, they're still quite different. And even then, a holodeck's still not the same integration of a mind and a computer and stuff. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Are we ever going to achieve this sort of either a holodeck VR experience or a full integration into a game? Do you think?
As far as a holodeck, I think that would be hard to do because getting a 3D, getting a like a physical hologram would be something that's really hard to. And even like having a like a 3D hologram, like they have the 3D TVs where they have like textured glass, I guess. So depending on where you're sitting, but the thing is if you have one person, it's kind of easy because you can just beam an image to each eye. But once you have like multiple people, it gets a lot harder to maintain a 3D environment or the illusion of a 3D environment from multiple perspectives. Uh, so yeah, especially something like a holodeck having like a physical thing there, you'd almost need some sort of shape shifting robot to play the role of a table or something, Um, but there are some really cool things out there. I mean, if you've seen Ready Player One, the 3D treadmills, we have those. Those have been developed. So there are 3D treadmills. They don't work as fast as they did in the movie, but they do have the treadmills that can go this way and then they can also go this way at the same time. And so by doing that, you can get full 360-degree motion. So that technology does exist. And I think things like PlayStation 5 with the haptic feedback and the controllers, I think that'll definitely go a long way in helping kind of that direction into the was it virtual world or whatever. But as far as something like Sword Art Online or The Matrix or Ready Player
Nah,
One,
no way.
unless we're hacking into our brains with unless we're physically jacking in, I don't think we're going to be seeing that anytime soon. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe someday we'll have something like contacts that you can pop in and use those instead of a whole headset. Just have kind of these contacts that can do it. But that's a
Yeah.
ways off.
Honestly, yeah, I'd say give it 15, 20 years at least because it's developing very fast. But say at the moment, and I'm not a VR player, so what I heard is that the best game you could play in VR would be Half-Life Alyx. Alyx. I heard it was a very fun game and everything, except that if you want to play it, you need a 2000 at least $2,000 computer which can run the VR. You need. I saw the Quest 2 is only let's say 500 or something like this. Basically, you have to put 2,500 at least at minimum if you want to have a VR experience, a pretty big place to enjoy to run around. Like I can't do it in my tiny cave around here. That's no way. You need the technology need to improve. Like right now, I think it's really a niche play. If you can play it, fantastic. If you have the money and the space to do it, go ahead. I don't think there's that many good games at the moment, but I'm sure that it's gonna develop with the technology. Give it maybe 15, 20 years too much, maybe 10 years. I don't know. But imagine that your whole computer, VR headset and pads, and add the treadmill on it. I was at 2,500.
Yeah.
Add the treadmill on it. $500 setup, $5,000 setup minimum. that's not for today. Wait for the technology to evolve and get cheaper, because right now it's just not there. But yeah, who knows? In 10
So you
years.
think it's something that they're still going to continue to invest in and develop,
Yeah,
or you think it's going to be a bit like a
yeah.
3D phone and it's just going to, people say, no, it's a novelty, it's not really working.
Yeah, no, I think they're gonna. They need some companies to exist in to go to get ahead of the others. And as I say, it's a niche market, and some people are ready to invest. If you get this technology cheaper, and of course, like innovate, maybe it's not gonna stay like this. Again, we are not in Sword Art Online anytime soon, definitely. But um, yeah, just let some time to get this concept to evolve for new technologies to get this stuff, all this stuff, way cheaper. When it's gonna be cheaper, people are gonna invest in it. When people invest in it, all video games maker are gonna try to make it better than the competition. So I really think it's just a problem of how expensive the setup is at the moment. So that's my 2 cents on it. But yeah.
I think there's also something to be said for not just the technology evolving, but games evolving to make the best use of the technology. So something like Star Trek Bridge Crew is kind of a good idea because if you're in the captain's chair, you don't need to move around too much. And that works out really well. Like a game that I've heard does really, really well in VR is Star Wars Squadrons. And one of the biggest problems
Really.
that I've yeah, and one of the biggest problems that I've heard with VR is that people get motion sick because your character's moving around the world, but you're not, and so you get motion sick. But in the game like Star Wars Squadron, you're playing a guy in a cockpit in a spaceship, so you're supposed to be relatively stationary. And because of that, it's a little bit easier for the mind to kind of conceive than if you're say walking around a house. And so I think that the games in a way need to evolve that you can't play a traditional game in VR and have it work. You kind of have to think outside of the box and create games like what was it? We reviewed that game before. What was it? Keep talking and nobody dies. Is that the one, Korean?
Explodes.
And nobody explodes. So something like that, where you're disarming a bomb or where you're sitting in a cockpit and you don't need to physically move your body. I think people can be really innovative, but they have to think outside the box and not make a traditional game. They have to make a game that's
That's
designed for VR in mind.
that's a lot of
Just
money not to
limitations.
move. That's,
Well, I'm going to give you guys the opposite. I think I'm incredibly positive about VR. When the first Oculus Samsung Galaxy Quest came out, however many years ago, I bought it for like 100 US or something. And you slot your Samsung phone inside, and I tried out Temple Run and keep talking, nobody explodes, and you have these cool like VR experiences where you're underwater and you see dolphins and whales swimming around you, and they make sounds. And I was like, that's pretty cool. But I think what I came away from that with is there there's not a game or a series of games that would make me say, hey, I only have, as a middle-aged gamer, right? We got to come back to that. I only have an hour to play or 1.5 hours to play. Never 1.5 hours. Do I want to spend 15 minutes putting this stuff on and getting
true.
ready and playing my game and then spending some time to take it all off, putting everything back? No, I want to make the most use of my gaming time as possible. And there's, I mean, about current properties and future properties, there's just nothing there that I'm gonna say, yes, I'm gonna go home, play VR today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So I mean, going back to what Adam said is I think for me personally, I would put in the money. Like the ultimate VR setup now is the Vive Index 2, which is 1,500 US. It's like 2,000 Canadian or something like that.
Ouch. Yeah.
Just, but that is the optimum, 120 megahertz in each eye, 4K resolution on the screens, absolutely beautiful. Uh, but again, I'd put all that money down. I'm like, yes, play Half-Life Alex, play the some gladiator game on Steam where you fight people, and that looks pretty cool as well. But just for me, it's just the lack of titles. But I think it's like all you guys have said. It's gonna going. I think it's gonna be faster. I think with MIT and TSMC announcing their 1 nanometer chip recently, I think in the next 5 years we'll get there in terms of VR for
Hmm.
sure.
Oh yeah, it's gonna develop like crazy. I'm sure
Yeah,
of it. Absolutely.
mine's very
It's
guessy
just
at the moment.
some stock to Can I invest in MIT on this?
So go ahead, Phil.
I was just saying, mine's gimmicky. It comes out like if I've got a party and it's kind of like, oh, I want to scare people by putting them on the rush hour horror roller coaster or some cinematic like kitchen experience. I managed to get a friend's girlfriend at a party, and I said, oh, it's fine. It's just a kitchen. Look, it's called kitchen. You just sit in the kitchen and you just make some food. It's just a VR experience. You cut the veg and she put it on, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you're locked in a chair in this grotty house with everything tied up, and you're looking around, and it's like a horror kitchen where you're about to die. But again, it's just a visual cinematic experience for like 3 or 4 minutes. But yeah, it's very gimmicky for me at the moment.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. All right, then I'm going to stop Phil's video, and we're going to come back to my tricky/trap question. What's next for bringing games in, be it board games or video games, or I mean, whatever kind of game you want, mobile? What do you want brought into a game? All right, and we'll take Adam first, since Adam is the veteran on this show. So you've got to be the first one. Give
That's
Antoine
fine.
and Phil some ideas to think, some time to think.
I thought of one actually.
Okay.
Okay, so I was thinking about what I said, bringing in parts of religion and that sort of thing, and culture is a big part of that. And when I played the Red Candle games, there was a lot in there that was very Taiwanese. It was very distinctly Taiwanese, and living in Taiwan, I could notice these things, but maybe somebody who wasn't living in Taiwan or wasn't as familiar with Taiwanese culture might not notice some of these things. And I think I'd like to see a lot more kind of, I would almost say local culture or personal culture, because a lot of games are dominated by Japan or, say North America or Europe. So I would really like to see a lot more of these kind of games introducing, because like I said, a lot of games introduce their own lore. They introduce their own culture. So they're kind of how people imagine a dystopian society or a utopian society. I'd like to see a lot more games that get more into like everyday life of everyday people, but give it that kind of local personal flair so that people can kind of get more of an experience of, living in a certain, part of the world that they might not have experienced otherwise, kind of globalize it and, give people a better idea of what is it like to live in, rural India, or what is it like to live in South Africa, or what is it like to live in, Paris or whatever, something that's very kind of something that for the person making it, they're going to put things in there that a person not from that group might not necessarily have thought of. So I think it looks like Antoine has something to say there. So
I have one for you. Did you play Dreadout and Dreadout 2?
no, I have not.
Scary games, all based on, I don't know if it's Thailand or Indonesia, local culture with local monsters.
Okay.
If you can't play it, just watch a Let's Play. Really cool games, and all based in local culture, and quite scary. So
Yeah.
that's
So
why, if you like it, go ahead.
exactly. Yeah. Something like that, right? Because then they're sharing like their own local lore or whatever, and these are like, I was it the, I'm probably going to say it wrong. Was it the Aswang or whatever? It's like a half woman and like the lower half flies around. I don't know. It eats babies. But like, yeah, like I would like what Antoine suggested, something like that shows, underrepresented cultures and gives you an idea of what's it like to live among them, and not just like, the fun lore, but, just kind of everything, like showing us, what's everyday life like and stuff like that.
Okay, Antoine, what about you?
Okay, I have a concept which is never gonna sell, so don't even try. uh, yeah, imagine. So when you think video games right now, you're thinking 60, maybe 70% would be war games, right? So try to take this concept around and do a diplomacy game. You have a war and you're the diplomat and trying to negotiate with both sides to make peace.
Oh, that's
I'm
cool.
thinking I'm thinking right now because of Israel and Palestine, at the moment. Like I was imagining, so you're the ambassador over there, and you're trying to get people at the table say stop shooting each other. That must be tough. You already start the game in very hard. That's how it works.
It only has hard mode.
Hard, insane. Oh my god.
Well, maybe the difficulties could be like, okay, easy is like, US and Canada, and hard is
Yeah.
like Palestine and Israel. So you're negotiating
the-
between.
This concept is not gonna work, but that'd be funny to bring into a game. Because I don't think I ever see something like this.
Maybe you could do it kind of like the Phoenix Wright games, you know?
I object. You have to take this
Exactly.
now.
All right, and then we're on to Phil. Phil, delight us with
Um,
your answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll probably give two answers. I give one for what the concepts I was discussing before, VR. But again, we always said it's going to be limited by development companies and more groups getting involved. I'd like to see a MMO on there, but I know that it's not going to happen because they have to integrate that type of system with existing MMOs. It's not going to be realistic. It's going to be something new, probably that they're going to have to develop. And then again, you don't really have the player base to probably make it worthwhile. I guess the company's kind of limited by player numbers. So I'd like to see that in the VR world, and maybe that would encourage me to play more and get my VR, more regularly. But other than that, I'd like to see more RTS games. I don't know. Maybe I've just been outside of the. Sorry, RTS. Yeah, RTS. Yeah, real time strategy. Because when I was a child and I was coming through, I was brought up on things like Command and Conquer and Dune and
StarCraft.
StarCraft, Homeworld,
Oh yeah.
Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2 before for me the abomination that is World of Warcraft. I really love the genre of, and then it just Warcraft 3 I saw it slide away from me, and then from then on it was just a distant past of what and then Command and Conquer collapsed, Age of Empires, yeah, I think fondly about all those big huge games that were there, and nowadays I don't know, I'm a bit lost when it comes to those. I don't know where to look.
Play
We're not
Warcraft
young
3
anymore.
Classic.
Yeah, Warcraft 3 was the slide though. It was the slide from Warcraft 2, which is that full on base building, troop building, conquer the map, and then 3 you started to get that hero idea. And it was
Yeah.
just all about if your hero was the most leveled up, then you were just going to wipe the board. So yeah, I saw that slide into World of Warcraft, and then I hated World of Warcraft for like 5 years because of it.
So that's why you play Final Fantasy 14.
For me personally, I mean, because Antoine is here, it makes me think I'd love a game because I watched the Netflix show Lupin, and that was the most fantastic TV show I've probably seen this year, and just makes me think like France and Spain have a lot of really good. I love comic books. Have a lot of like really good comic book characters and stories and stuff. And then in Western culture, I mean, Spain and France are the West, but we never do non-English comic book games or comic book stories or TV shows or that sort of stuff. So
Snowpiercer.
is Eastern Korean.
The movie's Korean,
Yeah.
but it's originally a French comic.
Snowpiercer is a French
is?
comic?
I think so.
I don't think so, man.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure Snowpiercer was
Oh, I
originally a
can-
French comic.
I can
It
use
was a
this.
French- Let's see. I'm pretty sure Snowpiercer was
As-
originally a.
As a French representative, I had no idea.
Yes. Okay. So it is based on the 1982 French graphic novel Le Transpercenigue. I can't pronounce it.
Transperneige. Le Transperneige.
Okay, trust. Yeah, I can't speak French, but yeah, so it's originally a French graphic novel.
Oh wow.
Fair enough. Never heard about it.
Ah, got schooled by Adam on a
there are 3
Tuesday.
of them. There are 3 graphic novels, in fact, but I
There
think
is
only the
so
first 2 are
many-
maybe the original guy.
Yeah, graphic novel in France and Belgium is a massive stuff, and there's no way for me to know all of them.
That's
it's
true.
really, really massive. Way more massive, I think, than at least as massive as comics in the US. It's as big, really.
11th of June for the second half of the Lupin series, by the way.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. All right, very
There you
good.
go. Way to go, Omar Sy, French actor. Woohoo.
All right, so that is it for today. Don't forget to drop us a line if you have any thoughts about what we discussed about today, any comments, what are your ideas about games, and maybe what are you playing? You would say, hey, you guys should talk about this game. Please let us know. Adam?
Yeah, and you can keep up with us at Middle Age Gaming 2020 on Twitch, at Middle Age Gaming on Instagram, at Gaming Aged on Twitter. Middle Age Gaming 2020 on Facebook, or of course, you can always email us directly at middleagegaming2020@gmail.com.
And just to see what's looking ahead for the week, what's everyone got planned in terms of content and streaming and gaming? Antoine?
So yeah, for me that's gonna be quite busy. So I'm gonna try, and that's my promise for the week. No streaming until I'm done with the epic mega sale video. Like the Epic Store is doing the mega sale of spring, and I'm trying to make a video for the past week, and I'm super busy. So I want to try to release it this week, and if I can release it by Thursday, let's try. I'll try to do some Subnautica on Friday because Friday is a day off for me. That doesn't mean I'm gonna have free time, but I'll try to do one video and maybe one stream. That's my promise, presidential promise. So it's empty.
All right, Adam.
So Friday will be Apex, but tomorrow I am not going to be doing my regular stream because I actually have a player 3-press start set up. So I will be doing that
Oh.
tomorrow morning. So I'm not going to spoil who it is, but I will say that it is somebody who actually has a high score world record in a video game. So we will be talking about that.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a world record
VIP?
holder. Who could it be? I think Korean might know.
I do because we had this conversation already.
Exactly.
So
Don't spoiler, it's not me.
that's fantastic. So I could remember to tweet out about that. For me, it's been wonderful having the time off and not being as busy as Adam is. So I've been playing Chimera Squad on my own time and streaming it as well. So I'll probably be streaming more of that. And unlikely, I still would like to do a few Hearthstone videos, but we'll see what's going to happen this week. What about you, Phil?
Yeah, I'm getting a bit in trouble here because I was wanting to still stream the Sword and Sorceries on Sundays, but we're now into a level 3 quarantine situation. So yeah, that's not looking likely for the foreseeable future until the COVID issue quietens down. So that's a bit annoying. And then I tried to stream on Sunday. Sunday's usually my streaming day, and I tried to stream Warhammer Chaos and Conquest, and just my old laptop was struggling desperately with the system. And then I tried to make a video after it of the same thing, and I think having the trying to dual camera was just messing up. So I'm going to try and look at lowering my quality settings and hopefully resolving that issue. And I really want to do that. If I can't do it as a stream, like I was planning to do a review stream of the gameplay, then I will do it as a video and upload it during this week. And then I might, seeing as those two are failing, I might try and get the video capture card working properly and get some Outriders streamed on Saturday, Sunday. But it just depends on this laptop. I am looking at a new one, but with the COVID issue, it's kind of like whether to spend the amount of money depending on how long the lockdown's going to be. So,
True that.
yeah, it will be happening. I've got my eyes. I've desperately been looking, but every time I look and I see one, it's already sold by the time I get there because laptops are selling like crazy now that everybody has to stay at home.
Yes. All right,
Yeah,
Antoine.
so I guess, yeah, well, we are finally over. Look for our podcast showing up next week. Maybe we can get Ben. Who knows? And next week we'll speak about. I still don't know what we're gonna talk about next week.
So,
You had an idea, Crane, right?
oh no, I was gonna say, I thought you would be like, hey, put the pressure back to Adam
No,
this week.
back to Adam. Adam, no pressure. Go ahead. It's
Let's
all on
see.
you.
I'm always terrible at this.
Deep breath. Deep breath.
Deep breath. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know. Does anybody have an idea? Oh, Korean has an idea. Okay.
Yeah, well, this is literally your idea. Yeah, because we talked about it before our last class before lockdown happened here for kids anyway. You said, summer's coming up, people are taking summer breaks, and, vaccinations are really good in the UK and the States and stuff. So we do a show about upcoming games in summer or games that you should look out for, releasing June, July, August, or be it, again, board games or video games, and that people should be like, hey, keep an eye out for this, maybe pre-purchase it if you want to walk that line, or Todd's waving no on. So yeah,
Do not pre-purchase. Watch Adam's stream. All Korean.
so yeah, I mean, yeah, what do you guys think? Maybe each choose a game.
Sure.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Summer blockbusters.
Summer
How
blockbusters?
about how about something you may consider streaming this summer?
Sure, 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 sure. Okay.
Sounds
All right.
good.
Like a little teaser.
I might steal
Next
DMZ
summer I'll be
Outer Limits before
streaming.
Crane grabs it.
Oh no! You just
Ah,
said it before me. God damn it! All right, that's fine. That's fine. You do me like that, I'm gonna find another one.
If it's good, I was hoping that maybe we can get a group stream of that going somehow. Maybe.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
it could be cool. It's not like you guys are like 12, no, 12 hours
12.
ahead of me. Yeah, it's okay. It's gonna be
Play in
fun.
the morning, you play at night, or we play at night and you play in the morning.
Oh, maybe you
Yeah,
and Ben play together.
yeah, that'd be easier. I mean, I'm working in the morning.
Yes.
Mm. It's the evening.
Evening for me, like right now, it's good.
Cool.
It's not like it's just 11 p.m. It's all right.
Phil and I go to bed at like, I go to bed at like 2. Phil goes to bed at like 5.
I've not been to sleep yet.
Yeah,
As soon as this finishes, I'm going to bed.
What?
I,
Are you joking or serious? I
He's
can't.
probably serious.
I start working at 5, so yeah, better sleep now.
2 ships passing in the night.
Indeed.
See what I'm doing for you, all for the podcast.
All right, guys. Thanks very much for being here today. Thanks, Phil, for staying up and not sleeping, and Antoine for staying up later, and Adam for just being Adam. Thank you for that. And we will see you guys next week, Tuesday, 9:45 a.m. Taiwanese time. Monday night, Antoine's time, 9:45 p.m. Keep an eye out. We'll be talking about games you should be purchasing or keeping an eye on, or just remembering for the future, for summer, for when you have that long vacation holiday and maybe you want to go outside because you're vaccinated, but maybe you want to stay inside with us and play games. So keep an eye out for that, and we will see you guys next week.
See you then.
Yeah.